Hi, my name is Shirish.
And my name is Bikash
Join us as we highlight ordinary people.
with extraordinary stories.
Because good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How have you been?
It's been one of those week.
Uh-huh.
A lot of things going on, and I guess I can't complain because I'm here. But at the same time, there's too many things in the plate.
Bright side. At least it's Friday.
I know. That's always a celebration mode, right? When it
Exactly.
comes to Friday. Um, how about you?
Yeah, so far so good. I'm pretty happy that we are here
Yes.
talking for our second episode.
Yeah.
Welcome. I want to welcome to our viewers, listeners. Uh, Officially welcome them to our podcast.
We'll get started. Um, So today we're talking about a tragedy that changed like perspective of things for us, right? So I know you have had one of the big tragedy. I've had one of those. I want to ask, can you tell me about your tragedy? What happened?
All right. Wow. It seems when you think about it, it's been about 16 months, 17 months now, roughly, and one of those life-changing events I would like to call, right? So I got diagnosed with leukemia, kind of a blood cancer. So it was pretty devastating when I heard the news, but it all came as a very surprise. So what happened was um, going on with my regular stuff, going to work, dropping little one to school, and everything was pretty normal. Then I realized there was a bit of a bruising, very casual bruising, and from
I remember that day
Mhm.
when you're sewing your arm.
Mhm.
And you said, "Look, there are some spots."
Yeah. And the same thing happened on my foot as well. There were little tiny red dots. But then I was working in the backyard that day, mowing lawn and everything, and I thought probably it's because one of those things. I mean, it could be anything. But what happened was I had a bit of a chest pain as well a couple of days earlier, so I was not sure. But then again, one of the things is whether it's good or bad, I don't know. Having that high tolerance. I was like, I'm okay. I'll get through this. It happens. It goes away. But then I remember coming to work. It was Thursday. I left early.
Nice.
I left early, and from I remember sending pictures to one of my friend in Nepal. She's a doctor as well, who works with kids with leukemia. She works kids under 18, and she immediately told me to go and do a blood test. I didn't know at that point of time. I was very casual about it. I went there, did a blood test, went to see the doctors on Friday morning, and she asked me a couple of questions, and all of a sudden her facial reaction changed. By that time, I have not even gotten my blood report yet, but she said, okay, you're going to emergency into one of the hospital. I said, don't worry, this pain has been going for a few days and I'll be fine because I was ready to come to work that
Yeah,
day.
you remember the text?
Yeah,
You said, "Hey, I'm gonna be late this morning.
yeah,
I'm gonna get my blood test done, and then I'll
exactly.
come back to
Yeah.
work. Maybe instead of 10, I might be 11."
Exactly. And I was sending you pictures as well when I went to the hospital.
Yes.
From the emergency, I was sending you pictures as well because, like I said, with that sense of humor, I was thinking, okay, it's nothing serious. But then again, from 11, 12, around 2 o'clock, somebody came in and they broke the news that I have leukemia. And at that point in time, I could not process anything. So literally, the guy asked me, okay, if I have got any question. My first reaction was, mate, I was smiling.
Yeah.
I was like, you literally let a bomb loose on my head. Like, I can't even
Yeah.
process anything at the moment. Give me some time, maybe I'll have. Then he told me that someone from the department will come and have a talk to me. And the senior doctor from the hematology department, she came and she explained it to me. What happened? It's one of those. Even within leukemia, there are various other forms. So it's one of those very rare
Rare
ones.
ones.
Yeah, it's Philadelphia chromosomes, right? So, and basically, this happens. What I've heard is it's mostly common in kids
Kids.
rather than adults. But It happened, and it was Friday, so there was not much I could do for Saturday and Sunday. So that broke the and hardest thing that I remember was how to break this news to my family. That was probably the hardest thing.
Well,
Right.
what was going on in your head when you heard the news? I
At
mean,
the one thing I remember is, and when even the doctor came in, the first thing I remember asking her is, "How long do I have?" And she said, "For recovery." I said, "No, to survive."
yeah,
And that's when she explained, okay, you can't really give you a time frame or anything because there are a lot of parameters that we still need to go through. And we will have this commence from maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. And at that point in time, I didn't even know what she was talking about. Basically, she was talking about the chemotherapy, right? That was Friday, so they were literally planning to start the chemotherapy on Tuesday. So that means this is something really aggressive, and obviously what I had is aggressive. And so yeah, that's Saturday and Sunday. I basically did nothing. I was just in the hospital. Friday, it was a very tough day, just to digest the news itself and how to break that to my family. But then I called my wife. I had to tell her. Fortunately, from that day onward, Queensland had relaxed their restrictions to let the visitors into
so
the emergency. Otherwise, they would.
yeah,
Until that afternoon, no one could visit anyone. Right. So she came in. I broke the news. I was even scared how she would drive back home because I
yeah,
wasn't there,
hearing that, yeah,
hearing that. So that's what was really really worrying. But then again, I had a chat with the doctor, like I mentioned earlier, in Nepal, and she basically looks after kids,
yeah,
right, with the similar sort of symptoms and everything. And she was basically explaining to me, not as a friend, but as a doctor, what happens and what would be the next course of action, what this and that. So, and I really admire her for her honesty rather than sugarcoating anything.
yeah.
She just told me what, like,
What,
brutally
yeah,
honest. She was brutally
what
honest.
are every
Yeah,
sort of things that
exactly,
you'll go through, and
exactly.
what you are going to be
Yeah,
facing
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. She was and that's exactly what I probably needed to hear.
Yeah,
But something that she shared with me, like few of the pictures of the patients, like I would say kids,
yeah,
of they were probably 6 years old, 13 years old, and once she's like, okay, don't be disheartened. Look at these kids; they have similar sort of situation, but they are overcoming it. They had done the transplant and everything. When I saw those pictures, honestly, I accepted what happened,
yeah,
and then it made my life so much easier because I was just trying not compare in a sense, but at the same time, I was thinking, if these kids are going through this, imagine what their parents would be going through, and I'm in that state at least. I think I've seen a fair bit of life as compared to those kids,
exactly.
and I was like, okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I think like going through instance in life, that's one thing I've also realized that I've also learned is when you go through this, you start comparing with people who are less fortunate than you.
exactly.
In life, we always try to look at people who are more fortunate than us, and we try to say how much we don't have things. Or like kind of, we have seen that clear example: a guy riding on a bicycle,
Yeah,
looks at
look
the
at
guy on the
the motor.
motorbike and says, "Oh, I wish I had that." The guy in motorbike looking at the car looking at Lamborghini, looking at the plane, and the plane is looking at the guy walking, right? So similar to when we're looking in life, but when tragedy hits, that's one thing I've learned is you look at the adversity, you look at the people who are less fortunate than you. Many times I'm reminded, look, I talk about my stressors, my problem, my issues, this, that, this business is having this issue. But then somebody just question me and say, guess what? How many people in this world would love to take
Trade
your
minutes. Yeah,
position
exactly.
right now? How many people? Almost 7 billion, I would say. Like there is 8 billion people, I would say 7 billion people might be willing to take my job, take my position, have a roof overhead, have a nice car to drive, has all the food I want to eat, have a nice bed to go to bed at night, and be surrounded with family.
That's the most important
Right?
thing. That's what I realized because when we talk about circle of influence, that is so much important. That's probably one of the most important thing that will decide how you'll come out of any situation. because when I talk about my circle of influence, my family, my friends, and the people in and around me have been absolutely phenomenal when it comes to the support that they provided. Right.
Here's something I'll kind of question. I know this is maybe touchy. What were you going through when you heard the news and thinking about literatures?
Yeah, that's one of the things because to be honest, I was thinking, okay, will I make it? Because it's year 4, and then I was thinking, will I be there for all his great milestones? Whether
Yeah,
that be okay any ceremony like Bhattavanda what that we're
yeah,
doing, or whether he is talking about his first girlfriend, or whether he is talking about sports, whether I will be there to provide his enough support to him or not. That was the first thing. And you constantly think about it. You constantly all I could think about that time was my family.
and I know it's brutal, and I know I'm getting you emotional, but just to kind of give a perspective to people who haven't been through that tragedy, I think when you are going through that, what is in your head and what is not? What is your focus and what do you see in front of you?
At that time, I was just my main thing was time. I wish because the worst thing was those 2 days, Saturdays and Sundays, weekends, because I didn't have much answer. Had I known, okay, these are the procedures and this is what we're gonna do, this and that, so I would have a better picture. But those 2 days, I would completely blank. I had no,
And
like
you're nobody
information
talking to
exactly.
you. You're in a bed in a hospital, and there
Exactly.
was nobody around, right?
So that raises so many questions. But I was just noting down all the questions that I had to ask to the doctors. And when they came Monday, they're like, okay, we're going to start the chemotherapy on Tuesday. This is what's going to happen. They explained everything. And one of the things that I would like to explain, it's really funny. First, you know how in the hospital they provide you with the consent before they do anything, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sort of a guy who even doesn't take painkillers or anything. Used to, right?
Yeah.
I was that sort of a person. But then again, first of all, when I went there, they gave me like few consent forms to do this, that, and they were like there was fair bit of paperwork.
Yeah.
I was going through it and I was scared. Like everything talks about the okay
Yeah. The ultimate
from
outcome.
exactly from literally it can cure you to literally it can kill you.
Yeah.
And it says, on a very rare occasion, but that still tells you, okay, there is still a number.
Yeah. And
That's still a number.
and probably going through your head. I already have a very rare scenario here.
Exactly.
Very rare case here. Very rare disease or whatever you call it, a medical, issue. And then they're talking about these pamphlet that talks
Exactly.
about rarely this could happen.
Exactly.
Guess what? You're already the rare one, right?
Rare one. And that's the thing. When they say rarely happens, on my head was still, okay, there's still a number there. That's what I was thinking. But then again, these days when they provide, if I have to go through any procedure, like last week I had to go through a procedure. So they provided me a consent. I just went through it. I completely skipped the part of the risk because you have to go through that procedure. So I was like, okay, yeah, there you go. Signed off the paper and gave it to them.
It's just like buying an iPhone or any phone
Exactly.
contract, right?
Nobody
Who's going to
reads-
read that 20 pages?
that's
You
the
just
thing.
sign.
Yeah.
Am I getting the phone? Yes. I'm not worried about all the other,
Yeah.
issues and
But
problems.
one of the good thing what has happened to me is even within my circle there are a fair bit of people like who have worked in this sector themselves, like my friends, their wives who have been working as an registered nurse. So there was sort of a go-to people that I can, okay, this is what they were talking about, what is this about. So and the worst thing what I would advise anyone not to do, not to do is go through Google.
No,
Because honestly,
that's the worst thing.
that is
Web
a rabbit
empty?
hole. Oh goodness me, that just is very very. If you look at stats,
Yeah.
like I'm being honest, I shouldn't be here.
No.
It's that depressing.
I'm very much with you. Like, just like how you said, my first question after the accident, when I came out of everything.
Sorry to interrupt
right?
you because
Yeah.
right there. So you went through.
Yeah,
You just mentioned accident, but to
So-
our listeners and viewers who
Yeah.
don't exactly know what happened, so what was the situation?
Look, mine wasn't as dire or as significant as yours when it comes to, having a cancer and fighting through that battle. But for me, it was my battle as well.
Of course.
I was uh, I went to US as international student. I studied and then I got a job with one of Big Four accounting firm, Ernst and Young, and I got into job and I was hired into doing audit on one of the very big companies. So I was on my way to work early in the morning, driving, and I was very excited. This was new assignment for me, so I wore new shirt, new tie, new suit, had my bag, everything. Other day I was used to driving while eating. That morning I said, no, I can't get any food on my. So it was early in the morning, and I got a call from my mom, and she said, "Hey son, I don't know. I've been seeing nightmares all night. Just wanted to make sure you're all right." And I said, "Mom, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. I'm going to a very important job."
That's mother's instinct, isn't
Yeah,
it?
look,
They somehow know.
no, and that's something like till today it just like shakes me, and I have that chills going through because she called me and I said, "Look, mom, I'm going to be busy next 3 weeks." I used to call her every morning on my way to work, at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And I said, "Next 3 weeks, please don't call me. Whenever I have time, I'll give you a call." I went through, was driving. 5 minutes later, I got into this car accident.
Was it your fault?
Look, I don't know whose fault it is. Somehow we both got charged for it. It was me and the other kid as well. But yeah, I got hit on the driver's side. In US, we drive on the other side of the street, and my car rolled. One of the guys said 5 or 6 times, another said could be 10 times or more. So my car rolled over and got into
these
one
were
piece.
witnesses who witnessed the accident?
Yes. There was literally the trauma guy told me, like, he said, based on looking at the vehicle, this is my thing. But the guy who hit me, he stayed there and he called the cops. So that's the only reason I'm here today. If he hadn't, it was one of those off highways early in the morning, around 6:30 in the morning, and nobody would have found me for another 45 minutes.
Sorry, maybe just a question. Were you over speeding or anything? Or
No, I was just going, like the normal speed, 65, 70 miles per hour in US, so close to like 100, 110 kilometer per hour. I was just going, and he was coming from off-road, and that's not a busy highway, so maybe he didn't look at.
all right.
So I got T-boned. So, and my vehicle was small. I was in a Toyota Camry, and I was going that. He just had to touch me, literally, because I was going in that fast speed, and hit, and I rolled. And my car was into one chunk, basically. So they had to kind of get the fire and all of them. They stretched the car, and they used the jaw of life to cut the car into 2 pieces.
Were you? Oh, goodness. Were you still conscious while, were you until that time where you were pulled out of the car? Though?
No, at first, as soon as accident happened, I got I fainted, and that's the only reason the trauma guy told me I'm still alive, because I was so crunched up in the vehicle, and the metal were very close to my throat.
Have you moved or
If
anything?
I had
it could have been this.
yeah, it could have
Okay.
severed lot of veins around my neck and all. But then when they were cutting the vehicle, right when they were extracting the vehicle, I came out, and then I came into my sense, and all I could think is my ankle hurting me. I didn't even know anything. Both of my blood vessels were,
In your eyes?
broken, and I don't know where, either it was bleeding from top here, but there were blood all over my face. I could only see shadows, and there was this guy who came on the side of the passenger side, and I could see a shadow a little bit of somebody standing, and he said, "Hey, I found your phone. Give me the lock code, and tell me who I can call and let them know that you just got into an accident." And I'm in the US. I don't want my family to know. I don't know what kind of accident or what's happened to me. And I replied to the guy, I said, my mom told me not to talk to a stranger. I don't know where that come from.
Was
right?
that your conscious
I was like,
reaction to the situation?
yeah,
Or?
he was asking me, and I said, my mom told me not to talk to stranger. And next thing I can see, like the shadow move, lean down, and he said, "You really want to do this right now?" I said, "Nah, but my leg hurts." And then my leg was pinned to the door and stuff. He said, "Look, I'm gonna put a blanket. We're cutting this car into two half and extracting you." Next, I could hear the loud screeching noise of those chainsaws, a jaw of life they used to cut the car, and then they extracted me out. I had no clue about all the damage that was done to my body at that point in time. I only knew I got into accident. And next thing I remember is they put me next to the road, because I could remember the black, pitch of the road, because they were in the stature, because they had to put me, and they were cutting all my sleeves and my clothes and everything. I had faint memory of that, and then they put me in the ambulance, and the kid who hit me was next to me.
That's what I was about to ask. So what happened to the other kid? Like,
Nothing. He just had few scratches and stuff from airbags coming, because he just hit and his vehicle stopped. But mine was in the speed, because he was coming from off direction.
So he wasn't as injured.
No, he was a young kid that got driver license to drive to go to school in US, because high schools are a little bit further, so you get those driver license. And then when I was in the ambulance, the kid asked me, "How are you?" The last conversation with him was, "I'm perfectly fine. What about you?"
Yeah, correct.
I don't remember other, right? And then I was not in a good condition, so they brought the helicopter. They life-lighted me and took to one of the hospital, right? And then they
So you had to be airlifted.
Yes, I had to be airlifted. The most expensive flight I took in my life, and I couldn't enjoy it. Yeah, it was like $26,500 or something. It was like a 6-minute long flight.
Do you remember anything that probably within that flight there, or were you unconscious by that
Like
time?
the last conversation I had was with that kid, and then I was in hospital over next 4 or 8 weeks doing multiple surgeries, 7 or 8 surgeries on my elbow, my left femur, and everything. My soldiers, my lungs. I had pipes through my mouth and nose and all that, and scary bit.
Definitely.
But one thing was, after almost 2 weeks of everything, finally when I came out to understand, hey, I've been in such accident, I was offered 2 options. First week after everything else, because they had put a pillar around my hand, because my hand was so severely damaged, there was no bones left. So my doctor came in. It was just few days after I came from everything else, and asked me, with your hand, we have 2 options. 1, to freeze it, and 1, to chop it off.
What do you mean freeze it? Like,
so that was same question for me. And then look, I had pipe in mouth and nose, and I couldn't do, and all I could remember abruptly shaking my head. And then the nurse
you didn't want to go with any of the given options.
No, and then nurse was trying to hold my head straight. She's saying, "Don't move your head." But I was just like, when they said that we'll chop it off, I didn't even listen to the second one when they said we'll freeze. And then I said, no. They said, okay, we'll wait until you can speak to us and everything else. And then when I was able to speak with them almost after a week, and I asked them what freezing means, it's just like they put some sort of like a cement kind of thing. So my hand is always idle like this. My fingers wouldn't move. I couldn't have anything done. It's there.
Is that a forever thing, or?
Yeah, forever thing. So it's just there,
Okay.
but it wouldn't move or anything else. And I told the doctor, look, that's not an option to me. Whatever you can do, try your best. And if it doesn't work, I'm willing to sign any way you need, but give it a shot. So they used a lot of metals, everything. And they didn't expect everything to run. Their expectation was maybe 15 to 20% movement on my arms, and not even everything else. But I was able to get almost 69% of movement and everything back on my elbow and my hand and all. I still walk with some of the metals in my hand. Very expensive procedure. Everything else, like in the US, Even one packet of saline water in some hospital costs you $1,000, even though they buy it for $1. But stayed in hospital, then stayed in nursing home, relearned how to walk, how to do everything.
What was going through your head when you were going through all this rehabilitation process?
The first I remember was in a hospital bed. I After all the pipes, everything was taken off. My first question to the doctor was, "Am I going to live?"
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just like how you said, how much time I got. I said, "Am I going to live?" And then they looked at me. They said yes. Then I said, "No point in telling my family. I don't want anybody to know." And everybody was screaming at me, "How could you do this?" I said, "Look, one of the hardest thing I could do is to see my parents, my mom, my dad, my brothers walk into this room and see me in the condition I am. I I couldn't even think about looking at their face, and that reaction I would see in their face wasn't something I was going to be able to handle.
That's how I felt, because honestly, when I didn't know, because you know how they show you in the movies and everything, where when if you're diagnosed with something like cancer and anything,
Yeah.
they sit you down and they tell you, okay, I had that sort of perception.
Yes.
Not that I
I mean,
knew.
that's what my perception.
Exactly. That's
Right?
and then, but I didn't have that. I didn't know how everything, all the procedures is gonna turn up. So I had to break this news, because obviously we had to find a donor. We have to do this and that. And the worst thing was, I don't know how you coped up, but the first couple of weeks was really tough, because it's so much of an information. You're overwhelmed. You go through the names of the medication that you've never heard. They're talking about things inside your body that you've never heard. So
They come and start throwing all the
Yeah.
medical terms, and you're sitting and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, tell me what it is."
I felt
right?
like a school kid, because one of the thing is, it's my body and I need to understand what's getting into me. So I used to ask them so many questions, like literally how a kid asks, question to a teacher. I'm like, okay, what is this medication for? What is this one? And even when I just yesterday, day before yesterday, I had to get another medication, and then I was looking for scripts, and I was going through everything that I have gone through, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of things that my body has already gone through.
I would
It
look
was sweet.
the first week in hospital. I found myself, like, there were a few days I found myself crying myself to sleep. Moreover, I was thinking, look, I'm young. I'm 23, 24 years old. They're talking about chopping my hand. Now I'm thinking about everything else I've looked at. Everybody was walking to me and telling me, "Hey, guess what? You're so lucky. You're so lucky you're here. You're so lucky." And the things that were going through my head was, if I was lucky, I wouldn't be here today. Why would I be lucky to be in an accident and be in a hospital, and they're talking about chopping my arm? But the thought process of that 99% negative, because if I tomorrow go to get married, will people accept me because I don't have one arm? How would I hold my kids if I have a kid? Or how would I do this in life if I don't have one arm? Everything was running through my head, right? That's me, because I already had those. But I know there are people who are born without limb, leg, and everything else, and they go through their life so beautifully that you don't even see any issues or problem, because that's how they live their life.
I guess it's all about the mindset.
100%.
It's all about the mindset.
Right?
Yeah.
So turning that negative thought process to positive, instead of thinking, why was I here, to kind of turning that to, look, I'm already here, so I can't go back and change. The thought process went in head. Maybe if I hadn't driven that morning, maybe I wouldn't be in an accident. Maybe I should have driven yesterday.
There will be when you're in that situation, there are a lot of if buts
Yes.
that you keep on thinking about.
Yeah.
And the same thing, because obviously when the accident happened, at least you know why that happened,
Yeah.
right? Okay, this is what happened. But in my situation,
Yes.
they explained to me, and I'm asking doctors, okay,
What could I have done
yeah,
different?
and then what causes it? And then they basically, we don't know. And I normally get these questions from everyone. Okay, that's a very common question. They ask you, okay, what stage?
Yep.
And when it comes to leukemia, they can't specify any stage because it's blood. It runs through whole your body, and there's no stage or anything. They can just tell you by the amount of okay, the cancer cells that's present in your body and everything. So even now, one of the hardest thing that I find is to answer when someone still asks me. They ask me, okay, how are you?
Yeah.
Because to be honest, even to this date, it's been about 16 months since 17 months now after the diagnosis. It would be 1 year pretty soon on March 4th since a transplant happened. But even now, I wake up different every single day because just like yesterday when we had planned to do things, but I wake up, sometimes I don't even have energy to get out of bed. I just feel like just curling into the bed with a blanket on and do nothing. And there would have been same thing even while being in the hospital. Sometimes what happens is I would get a call. I didn't even want to answer. I didn't even want to talk. So my wife, Charu, she would come to visit, but then again, I'm like, okay, I'm so sorry, but I can't even talk.
No.
It's just those medications, in your body, and chemotherapy is as such. It just drains you.
Yeah.
So
No, and totally understand, because so many times you are going through, and it's not in your control, right? It's not in your control. So what happens is everybody is asking you questions that you don't have answer for.
exactly.
And you want to be able to answer to people. You want to be able to have that bright, better perspective. But when everything is going through that hell, it's very hard to stay positive and think that no, life is so beautiful, right? But turning that mindset and changing it to, hey, I gotta live one day at a time, is something that changed significantly for me.
And like I said in my living mantra,
Yep.
like I said, it could have been worse.
Yes.
That's what I used to think as well. Okay, Shirish, now you're already here. Nurses, they always used to ask me, and the social workers, they used to ask me, okay, how are you feeling? I said, see, it's not a
No.
pleasant thing to have, but at the same time, I already have it. Now the thing is just
No. You gotta
moving
go
forward,
with, yeah.
moving forward, right? And then I used to ask them, sometimes you just listen to, and one of the things that I don't, this could be message to anyone.
Yeah.
When you are there and you're talking to someone, so talk good things, talk good things. Okay, something that motivates them. Don't talk about, oh, I know like friends or something who went to similar thing and it was very hard. Don't
No.
talk all this crap, motivate them and talk about good things. If you don't have any good things to say, just don't talk at all.
Exactly. And that's one thing I also looked at, because everybody tries to bring another example to help you. If you don't have a good example, please don't share.
That's the thing, because I realized that when I was going to have a kid, and that's exactly similar sort of thing because even when I was having a kid, most of the experiences that I could hear, rather than everyone, it's a cycle, isn't it? Life cycle. So everyone, I can see everyone getting married, okay, having kid, this and that. However, everyone is sharing when I was about to be a father, they were like, oh, your life is going to change, this and that. I know it's going to change, but talk about the good changes,
Exactly.
Why do you always say, oh, there will be sleepless night? Yes, I know there will be sleepless night. I know my routine is going to change and basically it will depend upon kid here, everything. But however, all they can focus is, oh, your life is going to change. This is going to happen. You're not going to have time for this. And I'm like, wait, talk about good things.
That's where many times we come through is, even when I was sitting through and going through all the therapy and everything else. And today we couldn't talk everything. We'll continue this in episode 3 as well, because I want to go a little bit in depth about everything beforehand as well as how things has changed, right? So I get a lot of those conversation, and people ask all the time, how's, why are you doing this? Or how was your therapy? How are you doing this? Many people come and say, oh, look, I had broken bone and I know what it feels like. But look, your broken bone was your story. Just like how they told you.
Exactly.
This is rare. Every case is different, right?
Exactly.
You go to the doctor, you had issues last week, and they said, oh, we've never seen. Even though you got leukemia, there's hundreds of thousands of people who have leukemia, but everybody translate to it differently. So you might understand the concept of it, but you don't really understand what exactly it is. So sometimes understand and listen, ask questions. That's what I always ask people.
And yet another thing is, unless any event, doesn't matter good, bad, or anything, unless it happens to you, you can sort of have an idea, but you don't exactly know how it feels. So when
Exactly not.
when someone says, "Oh, I can feel," I can like
No, you
inside my
don't.
head, I'm like, you
Yeah.
can't, you don't,
No.
right? You're showing me this, you're talking good. It's I can understand everything, but you can't literally tell me how I'm or what I'm going through right now.
No, definitely not. Look, I think it's coming to the end of the chapter today. For us, really like to thank everybody who is listening to us. Would love to hear your feedback or anybody that wants to come and share their stories or things. Would love to have that. We'll continue some more about this tragedy and everything in our third chapter. If you had anything else too.
Nothing much. I would, like I said, I probably would in the next episode. A very important thing. I would like to talk more about how you dealt with the thing and the mental well-being and everything.
Yep.
So at the moment, all I can say is I really welcome feedback from all the people, and also if you've got any stories that could be motivating, that could be inspiring, that could be
Yeah.
informative, anything you've got, please reach out to us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for today.